My name is Ron Lipton. I've been involved in professional boxing since I'm 15 years old. I've been in the ring as a paid sparring partner of Ruben Hurricane Carter, Dick Tiger, Carlos Ortiz, and Muhammad Ali. As a referee, I started in 1991, and I've stood between some of the legends in boxing as the third man in the ring. Evander Holyfield twice, Pernell Whitaker, Roberto Duran, Oscar de la Hoya. I started when I was about 15 years old. I went to a gym in Newark, the Parks Branch Club. I was getting in a lot of fights, and I just was a kid that I liked to fight. And I started out down there, and I think I was the only Caucasian fighter in the gym, and I was treated really well. And I was lucky I had the best sparring down there, and that's how I got started. The great boxing historian Henry Haskop kept a lot of the articles about my fights. I was known as a puncher. I won a trophy as the knockout champion of the AAU, the Amateur Athletic Union. Most of my fights, I didn't try for a knockout, it just came. I held two back-to-back, actually 6 seconds, both of them, but with the 10 count, 16-second knockouts. In the last live show on Channel 47, which was televised from Symphony Hall in Newark. 2 months before that, in St. Augustine's Church in New York City, Emil Griffith's trainer, Sid Martin, was in my corner, and I fought a guy from the New York Golden Gloves, Felix Ortega, and I stopped him. He rushed out and ran into a right-hand left hook, and it was over in 6 seconds. On the back of my robes, I would get a different robe for every fight, and on the back of each one of my boxing robes was a black leopard. That was my favorite animal. And when I saw a picture of Carter, he had a black panther on the back of his robe. So in the gym in Newark, they told me that he used to train there. And I asked my trainer about it, George Branch, and he knew him. And he said, I don't think it'd be a good idea. You know, I said, why? And he says, well, he doesn't like white guys too much. And I said, so what? See if you can get him down here anyway. I want to meet him. I wanted a job as a sparring partner. So they got him to come down, and he showed up in the gym. I'll never forget it. And everyone was crowding around him. And I was over in the corner hitting the heavy bag. And I went over to him, and Georgie Brandt said, this is the kid that wanted to meet you. And he says, why? Why'd you want to meet me? I said, because I hear you're looking for another white boy to beat up. And he glared at me, and then he says, that's so. Is that so? I said, yeah, I need a job as a sparring partner. And he said, you got it. He put his arm around me, he laughed. And they couldn't believe that he laughed, you know. So he liked it, the way I came over to him. He had a good sense of humor. You know, you either love Ruben or you hate him, you know. I got along good with him. And then from that point on, I stayed with him up in Isan's training camp in Chatham, every one of his fights.
Describe what it's like being in the ring with Ruben Hurricane Carter.
It's a place where devils fear to tread. He's a very explosive puncher. I knew what I was getting into, because I was there for all his fights. I was there for the Griffith fight in Pennsylvania and the Fernandez knockout, which is unbelievable, in the Garden in '62, you know, and you know, I knew what he was capable of, and I saw how he worked with the other sparring partners. There was no mercy, no quarter asked, no quarter given, and but I felt like my hands were faster. He had fast hands, but I felt like I was faster, and my footwork was much faster. So I didn't want to run, but I felt I could make a miss by half inch, half second, and I made it work, and I gave him good work. but now and then he'd connect, and he had this one move it always hurt you with, a left uppercut to the body, and then he'd leave it in there for a second and then turn it over to the head. It was bang, bang, like, you know, it was hard to get away from it. And if you did, he had a very short, explosive right hand behind it. So the combination was bop, 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 fast. And, you know, it'd stun you and paralyze you unless you kept moving. He wanted to win the title really badly, and I was in his training camp for that fight. He would come over my house in West Orange for dinner with my parents right before the Giardello fight, December 14, '64. And I told him that you're never going to outbox him, that you're going to have to jump on him and bust him up really bad and be the first guy since Harold Green to knock him out. And if you don't do that, you're not going to win the fight. And to me, when we went to the fight, I was sitting next to Harold Johnson, light heavyweight champ. And I went down there with my dad and my friend, and we just watched the fight. And I'm in the minority. Everybody to this day, you know, jumps on me. You know, Giardello beat him. He cut the ring off. I watched the film over and over and over again, and everyone else does also, and they said Giardello outpointed him, he won. So you're persona non grata if you don't go along with that. But if you watch the film, Ruben, he was the aggressor, effective aggressor, and he lost all interest after that. It just took everything out of him, which is not good. You got to, you know, suck it up and bite down and accept the loss and go on and get another title shot. But he was so disenchanted with that he became just an opponent after that.
Talk about your rise through law enforcement.
So I went to Verona, and that's where I was first a uniformed police officer. I went to the Essex County Police Academy in September '68, and in October '68, we all went to see Dick Tiger fight Frankie DePaula, who was my good buddy, both of them. So I remember that very well. I brought a couple of the cops with me to the fight. They'd never been to a fight before. And that, that was the fight of the year. After Verona, I went to the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office, and I became a detective there. And I became the SWAT team commander for the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office. And I worked all the different units. I ended up in the organized crime unit and the narcotic unit.
How did you becoming a cop, did it impact your friendship with Ruben?
Rubin Carter suggested to me he thought I would become a good police officer. And I said, why? He said, because you respect people, you treat people with respect. The only time you ever get in a fight is if someone gives you shit first. I was a very wild kid. My parents had broken up, they got divorced. I was sleeping in the boxing gym in Newark, and I didn't have too much good direction. And I felt it was like a grenade that if someone, I was walking around, I had a chip on my shoulder. If anyone bothered me, I'd fight. I wouldn't even curse at them, yell at them, let's go. And there was a lot of fights. And it was going to it's going to end up badly. And he saw that, and he said, you know, you're going to end up like me. Why don't you become a police officer?
As a boy, I admired Ruben's strength, discipline, and punching power. He was the best-built fighter who ever lived. As a man, I admire his wisdom, his uncanny ability to see quickly with the heart and truth of any situation. I'm very proud to have been part of Ruben's family, and we, as a family, always knew he was innocent.
And to Ron Lipton, my always friend, thank you for being in my corner for all these years, and for being here tonight to share in this momentous occasion.
All my friends that are in boxing, police officers, people that I love that are in boxing, involved in the Hall of Fame, very few people, if at all, have anything good to say about him. They got him painted into this niche of, you know, a very, very bad guy. And he would tell you himself when he was a bad guy. But I never looked at him. I saw the good in him, and I felt that he was innocent, that he was incapable of doing that triple murder. To this day, the case is still something of a horrific controversy, and my position in it is always attacked. It was a matter of loyalty to him. Would I condone an actual murder? No. I wouldn't do it as a person or a police officer. I understand that. But I personally had seen things in the case that were very disturbing. When I was an investigator detective in the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office, a retrial for the Carter case came up. Judge Samuel Larner was the assignment judge in Hudson County. He was actually the judge that swore me in as an investigator. He was the judge that was presiding over the Carter case. If the case was overturned, it would be a black mark on the dossier of everyone involved, from the prosecutor to the judge himself. So it just resonated that no one wanted to see it overturned. They didn't want to hear whether there was exculpatory evidence or not. He ended up doing 19 years and 7 months anyway. It was overturned, and Judge Leo Sarakin overturned it in federal court. I was there for every single trial. You know, if I'm friends with somebody, I have your back till we're both dead. You know, loyalty is everything to me.
Ron and I have been together since you were 15 years old.
I took up the cudgel for him. You know, he didn't get along with Muhammad Ali. Ali did not like Ruben. They actually had a pushing, shoving fight once. And I visited Carter in Rahway Prison, Trenton Prison, and one day in Rahway, it's now has a different name, East Jersey Prison, whatever it is. He seemed like he was giving up. So I left, and I told him I'm going to get Ali. He said, no, don't go down there. He'll never do anything for me. So I went there in 1973, and I pitched it to Ali and Angelo Dundee and Boudini Brown. Ruben, the way Ruben told me, I said, what was the beef between you two? And he said a young kid came up to Cassius Clay at the time and asked for an autograph, and Ali, according to Ruben, took the stick and brushed him away. And then Ruben pushed him. He said, how can you do that? I said, oh, come on, man. Ali would never do that. He's the most, gracious person. And he said, well, that day he wasn't. So I didn't know. It didn't seem right because Ali, I traveled with him, I worked with him. He was always beautiful with fans. But that's supposedly what ignited the beef between them. But Ali came with me. I brought him to Rahway Prison. We got a special visit. No one was helping with the case. They had a paid public defender doing it, but they were paid to do it. So I did it for free. He missed a lot of his life, and he always claimed he was innocent. He would never accept any plea bargain to get out of prison, and he fought it all the way. So he became very much a different person, as a lot of people become once you're incarcerated. So I understand that, but he seemed quite genuine. Some of the exchanges with Georgie should be put in a time capsule. I have them on film, and I study them all the time. When he lost the decision, Benton, he was very upset. I was in the dressing room with Carter, and I had met him before. And we stayed friends through the years, but he took that particular loss very hard because he wanted to be ranked higher at the time. And there was only one king of the hill then, Giardello or Tiger or Griffith. and no 3, 4, 5 champions. Arthur McKinney Sr. was the referee for that fight, and the referee scored in those days, and he scored it for Benton. And when he read his score, when his score was read, the crowd booed like crazy, and Carter won the split decision. And then George was devastated by it. And then as the years went by, I would see him, you know, I remember in the Manhattan Armory, I refereed, I think it was Alex Stewart, and Georgie had a few fighters on the card. And I walked in the dressing room, and he always remembered me from the March '63 fight, you know. And every time I saw him, I would imitate his style for him and to crack him up. I wouldn't even say hello. I'd walk in, Georgie Benton, and I'd imitate it. And he would say, "You sure this is a white boy? You got me down, Ron." And so I said, "Yep, we studied you before the fight." And he goes, "Yeah, I know. I didn't want to think about that night. Don't even bring that shit up." I said, "You got it." But we stayed friends, and I refereed Pernell Whitaker in a title fight, WBC welterweight championship on HBO, and Georgie was in the corner. And then he was in David Tua's corner. I refereed Tua twice. I'd give him a shot at anybody, Tiger, Griffith. Well, you know, he fought Giardello. You know, Joey wasn't afraid of him at all. You know, they fought a great fight, a terrific fight. And, you know, you have guys in the top 10, Henry Hank, you know, Tiger, Carter, Giardello, Griffith, Florentino Fernandez, Jose Manuel Gonzalez, killers, all lions and tigers. You know, and he's up there with them. He could handle any one of them on a given night. You know, and he became a fantastic trainer, Hall of Fame trainer.
Fights that you refereed that are really special to you?
I would say the NABF Light Heavyweight Championship in Bally's Park Place between Murky Sosa and Prince Charles Williams, the first fight. No clinches, both bricklayers throwing bombs, hurt each other so bad that at the end of the 6th, 7th round, I asked both doctors to come up to the corner. Prince Charles had a cut inside the orbital bone, but on the eyelid in here, which is dangerous. And Murky Sosa looked like he had a fractured cheekbone. And I mean, he was a bricklayer, Murky. I mean, he could really land some hard shots. And they both fought their guts out. And the doctors said, no more. Frank Doggett came up, and I asked both of them to come up, and he said, too much, no more. And they stopped it, and it was a technical draw. So after that fight, Willem Dafoe was in the audience. And my son Brett was sitting near him, and he said, "Great job, ref, great job." And he took us out to eat and a luncheonette afterward, and we talked nothing but boxing. So it was a memorable night. And David Tua, I refereed him twice, and it was like an explosion of nuclear leather when his left hook would land. Both times I refereed him, he just landed that left hook, and it was over. I mean, thank God I'm fast on my feet. I'm always I weigh the same as when I was fighting, you know? I'm older than water now, but you know, when I'm in the ring, I train hard. And with Tua, I had to be faster than I was riding a Harley Davidson to get there in time. Against Dan Murphy, 6'7", he hit him a left hook, and it was like the brick wall came down. There was one female fight I did with Olivia Jarula. Every time I go in a dressing room and the fighter's getting their hands taped, unless you're dead, you're going to be nervous. The butterflies are there. If you're alive, even Holyfield, I've gone in 2 times with him on HBO, you can see like a little nervousness. This woman fought, it was a title fight. She was smiling at everybody. She was so happy. It was like if I couldn't wait to get in there. And it just struck me, what a warrior. You know, I refereed, like I say, Duran and De La Hoya and all, but this one female fighter was such a warrior. So I went the distance, and she came out of the ring, and she looked like she got hit by a Mack truck, smiling and laughing like nothing. She ate the punches like candy, and still a smile and a kiss for everybody, the crowd, and it made my heart soar like an eagle. Like, I love courage, you know, in anybody, whether you're facing an operation or you're a public speaker, you know, to tap into that inner courage and get the job done. So I just remember her as being a brave warrior and a real professional, and very impressive. It's funny how you remember stuff like that, isn't it?